So here we have another couple of situations where things could go bad. And this is a possibility that they have of wrecking their home. Now, they noticed that the tree was hollow. And this is something that happens with large trees. Oaks happens a lot with, where the inside of the tree starts rotting away. Now, if you're to take a look at the tree, the outer layer, the outermost bit, is what carries the sap up from the ground. So it carries all the water up from the ground into the leaves and branches. That's also where the leaves and branches send the sugar down to the roots to build those out. And in the middle, you have what's called the heartwood. Now, the heartwood is dead. Dead. It has no living tissue in it. It's just there and it's solid and it serves to support the tree. And it has no real reason for it to be alive because all it serves is structure. So while your bones are alive because they are under dynamic stress and they're constantly being broken down and rebuilt because to repair them, the middle of the tree doesn't move. And so the middle of the tree has no shocks, has no stresses on it. So all it has to do is support the weight. So it doesn't need to break down. It doesn't need to rebuild. So in most large trees, just about all large trees, that becomes dead. And it's a good, hard, strong wood. Though sometimes the wood gets rotten. And as the wood gets rotten, it rots away, and the inner part of the tree rots away, and that you only have this shell left. Now, some species of tree are fine with this. Oaks live to be 1,000 years. You know, the old saying, 300 years to grow, 300 years to live, 300 years to die. And 300 years to die, they're, 6 feet, 8 feet around, and the inside is rotted out and hollow. But that's not really necessarily good for the tree. So they have the tree, which is hollow on the inside, and that's mostly okay. A lot of times nowadays, to protect trees that they find like this, they go in, they clean out all of the rotted wood, and they pour in concrete. And because the wood that they're replacing by concrete was dead, it doesn't really matter that it's concrete. But the concrete serves to hold up the tree. So there's a famous oak tree down in Maryland, the Y oak, which was just like a liberty tree, and it's all of these stories around it. And because I grew up in Maryland, we went to the plantation to see it, the Y plantation to see it. It's this massive oak tree, and it's 700. It was a liberty tree, which means it's 350 something years old because it was planted at the Revolution. But anyway, the inside was all rotted down. They filled it with concrete. But to keep these trees alive, they often fill them with concrete. But here what they did was they put a door in the bottom. Now, in order to put a door in the bottom, you have to cut through part of the living tree, which can kind of be bad because, that's less living tree to support everything above it. And they cut it out square like the door, which is really bad because the square notches cause these stress concentrations. And if you're going to be cutting a hole in something and you want it to be structurally sound, you curve the corners of the hole. You don't make square cut corners. And then they put a square cut door in. And so that likely could kill the tree. Putting in supports and windows going up the trunk could likely kill the tree. So here they are, they did all of these different things that could likely kill the tree in order to put their staircase up the middle. It worked out for them. It probably shouldn't have, but it worked out for them. They come back and they get the onager. Now, an onager, once again, it's not native to islands in the ocean. It's native to Iran, Persia. So this is an animal that lives in West Asia and as far as Mongolia, but so it lives in the Middle East, it lives in East Asia, it lives in West Asia. And so here you have this animal that doesn't really belong there and isn't likely really a domestic animal. not likely a feral animal. I mean, there are some which have been domesticated, but this is not the type of thing that you load on a boat and take to another island. This is the type of thing it's like, well, it's useful to draw a cart here. There's better behaved animals, a donkey's better behaved, a horse is better behaved. But so, here they have the onager. And, maybe it works. And because it's a donkey, it might be able to hybrid with their donkey. I haven't checked. It didn't look it up. But a lot of the horses, although they aren't, although they're different species, you can cross them. So you can cross a horse and a donkey and get a mule. And even though they have different numbers of chromosomes, you have a mule, which is a nice living animal and it'll live a good long time. It can't reproduce itself. You have zonkies, which are crossed between zebras and donkeys, and zorses, which are crossed between zebras and horses. And so they might be able to get little work animals out of their donkey and their onager. Don't know. We'll see. They did a plumbing project. Now this is kind of cool. So there's a little stream running by, and what they did was they dammed up the stream uphill to build up the water flow, to build up the amount of water. And so this is the first step in getting more water pressure to take water somewhere else. And so they built up a dam, and then they took water from the dam to give themselves, a few extra feet of head. Head is how you measure water pressure. And it's measured in feet. And it's like, okay, 20 feet of head. So it's 20 feet of water. And so they had this, and they were able to run bamboo pipes down to their home. And this is probably one of the most one of the most reasonable projects they attack. I mean, this is one of those things that can be done. And bamboo is commonly used for this because bamboo is mostly hollow. It's a grass, and it's mostly hollow. And so it's great for being used as pipes. All you have to do is knock out the sections in between, which you can do with, like a long, sharp stick, and you just go. Anyway, and so they have the sections, they can glue them together. And so they can get water piped to their house. And they have it dump out in a tortoise shell. And then that flows out of the tortoise shell, overflows, and goes into their garden or some such. Then they made up their winter quarters. And, building a place for the winter, because, this whole thing is about them being prepared, them trying to rebuild civilization. Now, winter in North America is cold. So you have snow, I have snow. It's cold, it's blowing. In the tropics, what happens is you get rain. And so on tropical islands, tropical land masses, you would have what's called monsoon rains, where you just have months where it's just rainfalls and rainfalls and rainfalls and rainfalls. And it will rain for days and weeks on end, and maybe you get a little bit of sunlight. So this chapter kind of ends on a downer, because here they are, they're stranded inside with nothing to do but weave their flax. So flax is another type of grass, and it's used to make a cloth called linen. And linen is very popular in tropical countries because it is cool. It's one of those, wool tends to keep in heat. Cotton is good. Linen is also very nice. Linen wicks away the moisture well and is a very cool fabric to be wearing. It's one of those things. It's common like cotton, so that they're both natural fibers and they're both good for hot temperatures. So I guess it's not quite as strong as cotton. I'm not entirely sure about that. They're made in different ways. They have their different preferences. Some say linen, some say cotton. Linen is well known for tropical suits. I mean, you hear linen and you think of tropical suits. You also think of sheets. But so that's linen. Ends on kind of a downer with them being cooped up for the winter with No end in sight, though, because, it's a seasonal thing. Eventually the winter's got to end.